G'day guys, welcome to this little behind the scenes episode of Aussie English where I want to show you a little bit about the Aussie English supporter pack and what I've tried to do recently. So as you may or may not know, I have an online paid subscription service to try and help English learners get a lot more out of the podcast than just listening or just reading the transcript by itself. So when you sign up for the Aussie English Supporter Pack, you get access to all of this bonus content for each podcast episode. So every podcast episode that comes out, you get the transcript and the MP3 at the very least. And then with weekly episodes, like the expression episodes, you get a whole heap of other exercises. So I'll give you a little look at the moment of what we have here from the more recent expression episode. So we had to scrape the barrel. We'll go to that. So this is the front page, the front sort of face of the website. I'm sure a lot of you know how this works. So there's obviously the title at the top. I have this little section here that only members can see where they can click here to download the PDF and MP3s and everything for the episode. And then for those of you who aren't subscribed but still want access to the MP3 and want to be able to read the transcript that's on the web page away from the computer, all you have to do for that is obviously click and then enter your email and it gets emailed to you. So that's, the standard episode. And you can also play it here using the SoundCloud recorder whilst you scroll and read. So for members though, they have access to all of the bonus content. So we'll click on that and have a little look. When you click on it, it sends you through to my Google Drive where you guys who are members get access to all the exercise MP3s here as well as the main MP3 for the episode and then the PDF and any other documents that might come with the episode as well. So you click up here on the little arrow to download it, and it just shoots on down. Once it's downloaded successfully, you just have to unzip it. So click the little button, open it up, jump inside the folder. There are all your files. Click the PDF to open it up. So here we go. There's the PDF. So I color code things in the text itself to try and make reading it a little easier and finding some of these things a little easier in the text. So the black is the lesson vocab, the more difficult words, verbs, phrases that I want to define and will use later on in the exercises quite often. Blue text is idioms. Green text is the lesson expression itself. So in this case, to scrape the barrel or to scrape the bottom of the barrel, that comes up in green. And then red text is the Aussie slang that I use. And so as we scroll through this lesson, you'll see the green text come up there, and then you'll see blue text every now and then wherever I've used idioms. Let's see if we can find one. Wow, there's red text. Red text there is the slang. Blue text here to have a crush on someone, so different kinds of expressions. And so you get the whole transcript like that where you can read through and focus on things here. A phrasal verb here to ask out. The more difficult stuff, you can take note of it. And then when you go back to look over the transcript, you can find it a little easier. So at the bottom here, I want to show you the different exercises. So to start with, I have a glossary. A glossary with all of those words that were in bold as well as in color defined. So for instance, to get off, as in to get off a period of time. Here I've got the phrase itself, the definition of the phrase, to leave work without permission, to leave work with permission as scheduled. And then I've got an example that I've just written, as in come up with myself. And then I have the actual line out of the text that was where this phrasal verb in this case was used. And so I do this for every one of those bold words or phrases. So you'll see there's a whole lot of them. I go through to the end of that. So that's that. And then I have writing practice, where you guys can test your memory after listening or after reading the glossary and see if you remember the definition of a lot of these different words. You can also go through the text and try and work it out as you're reading, so you can keep referring back to the table and trying to fill in the definition of these words or phrases and any synonyms that you might find. So anything like adjectives, quite often I try to repeat different ways of saying the same thing to try and teach you synonyms, because that's a very important part of any language. Then I have a listening comprehension exercise. So in this one, it's designed for you to listen to the episode again and answer these questions as you go through. So for instance, how many days off do we get in Australia for the long weekend that I mentioned? And which days were they? I talk about if I'm religious or not. Is Australia as religious as America? So these are all things I talk about in the episode, and they're in this order. And it's designed so that you have to pay attention and then write out the answers. And then at the end, you'll see that you just have to scroll to the very end of the PDF to get to the answers section to see the correct answer. So that's the listening comprehension section. Then we have a substitution exercise, and I tend to do phrasal verbs at the moment for the substitution exercises. So here you'll see that I introduce it, I say which phrasal verb it's going to be. In this case it is to put off. I tell you the synonyms for to put off, so the other words that can be used that mean the same thing as to put off in this case, to postpone, to delay, to reschedule. I talk about whether or not you can split the phrasal verb, so whether you can separate it, so you can put something off in this case, or you can put off something. And then I also talk about obviously whether or not they always need to be split using pronouns. So there's obviously phrasal verbs are tricky, and that's why I try and do a phrasal verb every episode and a phrasal verb that I use in every episode. So for the substitution exercise, you get a series of sentences here where I've used the synonyms, so to reschedule, to postpone, or to delay, instead of to put off. And you have to either rewrite these sentences using to put off in the equivalent verb tense, or you can listen to an audio MP3 where you have to do this by speaking. So you can do the exact same sentences but by audio. So it's up to you. Depends on what you're working on. So that's the substitution exercise. You get quite a few sentences there using those different synonyms, and you get to attach meaning to these different verbs that don't necessarily mean exactly the same thing all the time, but that share meanings in these things. You know, I love teaching synonyms. And again, the answers are at the bottom of the PDF. Then we have the slang exercise section, where I just write out the different slang terms that are used and give you a chance to use them in a sentence, to just practice them briefly if you're trying to learn Australian slang. And then I have the second last exercise. Exercise 5 is a pronunciation or connected speech exercise. So this is for people who really want to sound like an Australian and pronounce things just as I pronounce them. And so in this exercise here, we've gone over how the gerund ending of different verbs, the ing ending, actually turns into "n". Ing turning into "n". And so again, this is a substitution exercise where I will give you an audio file that plays you me saying it both ways, and you have to insert in the pronunciation change. So for instance here, I would have said, "I'm going home," and then you'll then hear, "I'm going home. I'm going home." So that slight difference in pronunciation shift to try and teach you to not only be able to say it, but to be able to understand it when you hear it. So that is the pronunciation and connected speech section of each episode as well. So there's quite a bit there. And again, answers are at the bottom. And then lastly, we have a grammar exercise. And so this week we were comparing the different words many and much and when to use them, using much with non-countable nouns, using many with countable nouns. And you get in all of these sentences here in this section that you have to insert in the different words. And again, you get the answers at the end. So these are the different things that I have to offer in the PDFs themselves. And I'll show you the answers section here at the bottom so you can see it. There's also language learning tips and other ideas for you to go online and practice these things in other different ways, depending on what you're passionate about or interested in. So here's the answers section. You can see all the listening comprehension questions followed by the answers. You then can see the substitution exercise here, and I also write it out if it can be split or left together. If they're both correct, I give you both answers. The grammar exercise as well is all here. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to these PDFs. I've also recently started doing fill in the gap PDFs for people where I actually take out words from each sentence and leave gaps there for you to listen and try and fill out as you hear me say the words that are missing. So I also include those. So the whole point of the Aussie English Supporter Pack is really to give you guys all of this extra material that you can use, and you can pick the bits that you're working on, whether it's phrasal verbs, pronunciation, listening comprehension. You don't have to do everything, but I want you to be able to work on the things that are most important to you and help you learn Aussie English better. And then I also thought I would show you the Aussie English Virtual Classroom. And so this is a private group here where we have different activities and private posts. We break down different videos that people find. We chat about it. At the moment, I have daily phrasal verbs that come up every single day, and we get the members to comment and write sentences and practice them. And I come through and correct all of these different sentences, and we discuss it. So that's what the Aussie English Virtual Classroom is like at the moment. I'm hoping to add a lot more to it in the near future. It's also where you just get access to me more often. So if you have questions, if you have things you're worried about or confused about, you can ask me at any time and I will respond as quickly as possible. So aside from that, I guess I should show you the members space episode list. I just finished doing this today. That's this page. We'll load it up again. And so I've tried to make going through all these lessons a lot more easy, a lot easier, so that you can see all the previous episodes. You can click here to go to the download section and get all of your files. So they come out for every single episode here. You just have to click here to download them. And yeah, it should be a lot more intuitive and easier to navigate through all of these episodes as you're working on them. So if you're interested in signing up for the Aussie English Supporter Pack, guys, all you have to do is come on the website here and click Learn Aussie English Faster. You click on that, you scroll to the bottom, and all you have to do is click on your payment method, if you're going to use a credit card or if you want to use PayPal, and then enter your details and click Sign Up. You won't get charged anything more than $1 for the first month, and you can unsubscribe at any time. And in order to do that, all you have to do is go to your account here and then click on subscription and then go to unsubscribe. It might not show you it here. Yeah, it won't show you because I obviously don't have a paid subscription to my own service, but you would just go to subscriptions and unsubscribe at any time. Anyway, guys, I hope you've liked that little introduction to the Aussie English Supporter Pack, a little bit of the behind the scenes of what I'm trying to do here. I really, really recommend that you give it a try. You know, $1 is close to nothing these days. Even if you just try it for a month and download everything that's on there, I really want you to get all of this material and be able to use it and improve your English as much as possible. And if you want all the stuff that's coming out in the future, as well as to stay in the Aussie English Virtual Classroom, then also obviously I recommend that you stay signed up and keep helping me do what I'm trying to do with Aussie English. So thanks so much, guys. A special thanks to everyone who's already signed up and is helping me become able to support myself and continue to do this. I'm not quite there yet. I still have to work, obviously, but I'm slowly trying to get there and just help you guys as much as possible take your English to the next level. So I hope you've liked this little behind the scenes video, guys, and I'll chat to you soon. Thanks. All the best.